Stand by to initiate release sequencer. On my mark. 5.
We're on express elevator to hell. Going down.
2. 1. Mark.
Hello, everybody. My name is Mark, a.k.a. Derringer, and today is Sunday, October 22nd, and you are listening to episode 128 of the Instant Action Podcast, your weekly source for Planetside 2's news and information. As always, I'm brought to you by great listeners like you via the Support the Show tab on instantactionpodcast.com. I know it's a little early for this, but let's be honest, the holidays are right around the corner, so I did want to take a moment and remind people that aren't using my Amazon link right now to go and bookmark that as soon as you can on your home PC, on your girlfriend or wife's PC, your mother's PC, anybody that you can think of who might be buying stuff on Amazon so that I can get a small taste of that. Again, this is something that costs you absolutely nothing, especially if you're shopping at Amazon already. Amazon gives me a very small percentage of whatever you purchase, and as always, that is used to just keep this show cost neutral. Now, my server fees and everything like that, they don't come up until May, but like I said, holidays are right around the corner whether you like it or not, so now's the time to get those links added if you haven't already. And if you are using the link already, because I know a bunch of people are definitely using it, I certainly appreciate it, and thank you very much. Other than that, what the heck's been going on with me? Well, I've been playing a lot of MaxSuit recently. I've been going by the handle Max Derringer Max every time I log into the joke TeamSpeak, and everybody makes fun of me. And lately, they've been throwing the squad beacon at me even when I'm in a MaxSuit because it pisses Gelos off, and we all think it's hilarious. But yeah, I've been playing a heck of a lot of Max lately, and I don't really have a good answer why, but and maybe it's because I hit BR 120 on the NC character, and I don't really feel like doing any sort of grind on any of the other characters, and sometimes it's just a lot of fun to sit in a Max suit and absolutely decimate people as they come running through a doorway. Whatever it is, I've been playing a heck of a lot of Max lately. Both VS and TR. Not so much NC, because really we haven't played a lot of NC lately. We've been playing a lot of VS lately because they seem to be the under-popped faction every time I log in and do a little playing. But in all honesty, I think my playtime is going to cut drastically very soon. If you guys don't know, Destiny 2 comes out for the PC on the 24th. If you're listening to this on Monday, it's coming out the following day at 1 Eastern, 10 Pacific. I will be playing a lot of Destiny 2 on the PC. I've been playing it here and there on the PS4 for a while now, but I am a PC gamer through and through, and I am definitely looking forward to playing Destiny 2 on the PC. I'm going to be playing with Torx, who many of you remember from Reachcast. He and I are already in a guild together, or an outfit together for Destiny 2, so I will actually be doing a lot of playing with him starting on Tuesday. No, that does not mean that he's coming back we're going to do Reachcast or anything like that. It'll still be just me on the Instant Action Podcast, but it does mean that my time in Planetside 2 is going to be limited, so really that just leaves Monday to kind of do as much of the pumpkin hunting as I possibly can before I dive into Destiny 2 and spend a lot of time in that. Obviously, I will continue to play Planetside 2 because Planetside 2 still is my first love. But what do we have in store for this week's show rather than continuing to talk about Destiny 2? Well, first, obviously, like I just said, we have to talk about Nanites of the Living Dead. Then we have a PC game update that we have to talk about, followed by a short note that Wrel made about Bastion Fleet Carriers that I want to explore a little, followed by, let's talk about the Windows 10 Fall Creators Update and what it's doing to some PC players' FPS in-game. So with that, strap in as we hot drop into another episode of the Instant Action Podcast. All right, so first up this week, like I said, Nanites of the Living Dead has launched. And if you haven't had a chance to read what they actually wrote for the event this year, I thought it was very good. And I'm going to take a moment and just read it out to you guys because I think it's worth it. So they wrote, as we all know, due to the stellar teachings of our patent-pending pod educational system used in schools all across the Araxis colonies, the space pumpkin is an amazing fruit, genetically modified by talented grad students at the accredited Nanotech University Online. This wonder fruit has literally dozens of proven medical and scientific uses that are beneficial for most humans. Unfortunately, due to a recent class action lawsuit, we are currently unable to discuss these uses, but boy, oh boy, are they great. That sure sounds super interesting, but what does it have to do with me, you may find yourself asking? Good question, talented and intelligent soldier. Due to a recent mix-up, some of our latest samples were shipped down to the surface of Araxis instead of the testing facility that they were intended for, because Helen in order processing can't seem to separate her personal life from her job long enough to get her assignments sorted. Unfortunately, due to the space pumpkin's super-fast growth hormone, the samples have already taken root and are now growing on Araxis. That's no good for us or our court-ordered suspension of distribution, so we need you, the soldiers of Araxis, to help us out. It's simple, really. Find a space pumpkin, destroy it, and bring the seeds, SPS, to a designated SPS drop-off zone, and you'll get a reward. Isn't science amazing? For a limited time only, hunt down space pumpkins and use their seeds to purchase new masks. These masks are seasonal and obviously can only be equipped during the Nanites of the Living Dead events. So I thought that write-up was very good, and I enjoy tongue-in-cheek stuff like that. It's been a long time since we've had tongue-in-cheek patch notes. Radar X used to do a lot of tongue-in-cheek patch notes way back in the beginning stages of Planetside 2. Clearly they have gotten away from that. So I was happy to see them do something funny like this. So yeah, they've got all the different helmets are back into the game. Any player does get the Ichabod crane one. That's the one that actually looks like a pumpkin head. Don't forget to be wearing that one at all times because you do get an XP boost while you're wearing it. And you can also get all the various other different masks that are in the game right now. One of my favorite ones is the augmented brain chassis. That's the one that's the Terminator mask. I saw a very funny picture on Reddit of a female character wearing that, saying, "Don't judge my gender." I found that quite amusing. But other than that, it's really a sniper's heaven recently, especially with all the Infernal Skulls, the flaming skull masks that are going on and things like that. In addition to that, the NS Candy Cannon is back, the Slasher is back, and the horns are back as well. So if you have always wanted a Halloween horn or the Candy Cannon or the Slasher, now is the time to purchase those. The event itself is running from October 19th through November 10th. So as of this recording, you have 3 weeks still before it ends, because it ends on Friday, the 10th of November. 3 weeks is certainly plenty of time to get out there and hunt your pumpkins. Now, there are some issues with this event currently, and Wrel did send out a tweet late last week that says they are going to be reducing the grind on the Halloween directive itself. They are fixing the Halloween helmet-related bugs, and they will also be releasing the Flame Riders. Those are the flaming tires because they're not in-game yet, and everyone should expect a hot fix for those this week. The week, if you're listening to this on Monday, sometime this week. It would be nice to see if it came early in the week, but again, we have 3 weeks to go on this particular event, so there's plenty of time to get that hotfix in and fix those various issues. I'm excited to see what the reduction of the grind is. I'm hoping it's on hunting pumpkins and things like that. But I guess we'll have to just kind of sit back and see. And with that, get out there and finish off your directive and do stuff like that. But let's move on to our second topic this week. So second topic this week is the October 19th PC game update. And first off, that brought us the Nanites of the Living Dead, but it did also bring us a bunch of other things within the game itself. And first, just some meta things that it brought. They've included a fix that will stop players from receiving rewards when they zone into a different continent to participate in an alert. That was a big bug that people were having. The alert would start, and then they'd switch to that continent, and then they wouldn't receive rewards. So good to see that that is fixed. They also reduced the threshold required to activate faction balance queues on a continent, another good fix. They also increased the Meltdown Skybox lifetime. That seemed to end far too fast. And now continent locks also have a chance to yield a reward of 100 certs. So your loot box could now contain 100 certs. Not too shabby. Honestly, my loot boxes keep dropping me awful decals that I would never buy normally, but hey, whatever. Next, moving on to inventory adjustments. First off, starting with the ESF synergy for engineers. This is, repairing the special ability that engineers have while in ESFs, that it will repair their ESF if they're an engineer. So they've renamed that aircraft synergy. So while an engineer is in the vehicle, it will gain a heal over time equivalent to rank 1 nanite auto repair. This effect does not stack with other engineers sitting in the vehicle, and it does not stack with the nanite auto repair cert line. But they have added 2 additional ranks to this. The next rank is 250 certs, and the last one is 500 certs. If you get the second rank, it is now also going to affect if you're in a Liberator. And if you get rank 3, that's now going to affect if you are in a Galaxy. Now, the intention of this is to reduce the impact of chip damage from ground vehicles at long range. And you'll note that there is no Valkyrie benefit for this, because when a Valkyrie is fully crewed, they can repair themselves faster than any of those other vehicles, and also do it while they are airborne. So engineers, if you are a flyer, look at these extra 2 certs. So we're talking 750 certs total, so that you can auto repair your Liberator and Galaxy. Next, the Nanowave armor and kinetic armor. This is on both infantry and max suits. Ranks 4 and rank 5 also now have reduced damage to the Walker anti-aircraft machine guns by 20%. Next, the ordnance armor for maxes. The description of it listed the wrong resistances at the wrong ranks, so they updated the description. So rank 1 is frag grenades and common explosions by 50%. Rank 2 adds infantry rockets by 20%. Rank 3 adds tank mines and C4 by 50%. Rank 4 adds tank shells by 20%. And rank 5 adds air-to-ground warheads and light anti-vehicle weapons by 20%. Next, moving on to other weapons, or a weapon, let's talk about the Spiker first. This is the VS pistol. The alternate fire mode for the Spiker now deals light damage to heavily armored targets. And it's also been granted an additional charge level. So charge 0 requires 0 seconds to charge it. It consumes 1 ammo. Does 50 damage at all ranges. Charge 1 requires 2 seconds to charge. Consumes 2 ammo. Does 200 damage at all ranges. It also does 50 blast damage. Charge 2 requires 4 seconds to charge and consumes 4 ammo. This does 400 damage at all ranges. And also 150 blast damage. Now, the damage at all ranges is the same damage as the anti-materiel rifle. And at charge 1 and charge 2, the blast damage is the same as a common explosive. So if you have not used the Spiker in a while as a VS player, maybe you want to actually pull this one out and use it. An interesting change, and I'm wondering if we're going to see a TR variant of this and an NC variant of this down the line. Maybe not, because the Spiker is such a unique weapon in that it has this charge system, but who knows. Next, moving along to the NS-45 Pilot. Its aim down sight and hip fire, cone of fire blooms got some reductions. It also had a reduction to the vertical recoil. The Yumi, the NSX Yumi, had its horizontal tolerance cut in half, and also its vertical recoil reduced slightly. Next, moving along to vehicles. The Sunderer's health pool was increased to 5,000, and the thoughts behind this is that a health pool bump helps increase survivability without making it easier to out-repair incoming damages, as a resistance change to the Sunder itself would do. So again, health pool used to be 4,000, it's now 5,000. Moving along to the main battle tanks and the lightnings, and specifically the side armor. Due to feedback from tankers out there, to Wrel specifically, they have decided to bring back the side armor bonus. So instead of being 0, it's now minus 15 if you hit it in the left or right armor. So basically they've added back in the side armor damage bonus. It really only generally results in one less shot to kill from main battle tank cannons and hard-hitting secondaries like the halberd. But it does bring a little bit more thought into flanking within the game itself. Next, air-to-ground warheads. I think anybody who's been playing the game knows that air-to-ground has just felt a little too good, and the devs know that as well. So the durability against Hornets, the Zephyr and Dalton weapons for the Galaxy, the Liberator, and the Valkyrie was increased quite a bit. The anti-materiel rifle received some adjustments to lighten the impact on certain types of hard targets. So the main battle tanks, the Lightnings, and the Sunderers all got a bit of a buff to its resistance against the anti-materiel rifle. Again, I think something that was needed, because a good group of engineers with the anti-materiel rifle could really take down some of these vehicles much quicker than they really should. Next, the Walker anti-aircraft turret. The dev said that it was somewhat overlooked. They had originally intended to eliminate the resistance type altogether, but instead of doing that, they're going to hold onto it for a little bit to increase design flexibility. And they'll ultimately take another pass at where the weapon lines up itself. So the main battle tank harasser and ant variants had their fall-off damage reduced, while the Liberator, Galaxy, and Sunderers are remaining the same for the time being. They also had the main battle tank harasser and ant variants also had their minimum damages increased a bit. And the resistances against the Walker for the Flash, the Ant, the Sunderer, the Lightning, the main battle tank, ESFs, the Valkyrie, and the Galaxy all had their resistances increased across the board, some higher than others. Next, flak adjustments. They felt flak was weaker than they want them to be, so they've taken another pass at their damage values. So Skyguard in particular had its blast damage increased, cone of fire increased, recoil decreased, because they want it to be the most consistent anti-air platform. So they've given it a range reduction in the form of the cone of fire adjustment to help mitigate chip damage at long range. Next, the Ranger on the main battle tanks, harassers, and ants had its blast damage increased. Same thing for the Ranger on the Sunderer. Also, burster maxes. An interesting one is that the cone of fire was different for the Vanu and the TR maxes than the NC max, which was I didn't realize that this was a bug, but Basically, the VS and TR Maxes had bugged cone of fire values and didn't reflect their intended range after the Combined Arms Initiative, so they standardized all the cone of fires to 2 in normal movement states, and that should make the weapons more usable and consistent regardless of sustained fire and whatever movement state you're actually in. Glad that they fixed that bug. The Striker had its indirect damage increased. The Aspis anti-aircraft construction turret was renamed to the Hoplon. Hoplon is pretty much a synonym for Aspis, but they wanted to differentiate it. It also had its maximum damage range cut in half and its minimum damage range reduced by 100 meters. Then back to rocket pods, because again, they were tuned a little too generously on the damage scale. So they've reduced the direct hit damage on basically all of them to nudge them back into a place that they want them to be and not as powerful as they actually were in-game. Next, moving on to the canister, that had its refire rate dropped drastically, and it's pretty much bringing it back to its old rate of fire so that it's more competitive versus other vehicles. The Dalton had its ammo capacity increased, and that's because the shots to kill against targets is much higher than it used to be, so they increased the default ammo capacity so you wouldn't have to go back and get more ammo a lot in the Dalton. I still think the Dalton is not where it should be. Dalton pilots, I've got your back on this one. The Dalton is a hard weapon to use, and if you can score a kill on it, score a hit with it, I do think it should do a lot more damage than it's actually doing, but I guess we just got to keep banging our heads against that one until the devs listen to us. Other than that, there were some other miscellaneous changes, additions, bug fixes. The ones that I really want to talk about is that they've increased the vehicle projectile render distances. They fixed the heat wave decimator. Its ammo capacity is now, and ammo refill rate are the same as the regular decimator. And the biggest complaint in this patch that I've seen since it went live is that the holiday event horns and long play cosmetic horns had cooldowns added to them, and now they either have a 5-second or 8-second cooldown. And I can't tell you how many people I've seen in-game complaining that there's a cooldown on their horn and they can't spam it like they used to. So take that one as it will. So that is the October 19th game update in a nutshell. I would expect, when I talked a couple weeks ago, I said we'd be seeing an update like this, and I don't think that this is the last one that we're going to see as they continually tweak the Combined Arms Initiative update. But with that, let's move on to our third topic this week. All right, topic number 3. This is a little nugget that I found on Reddit, and it's regarding the Bastion Fleet Carriers. And one player had said that they wish the Bastion thingies were actually flying bases that you can only capture with air. And Wrel actually responded to this and said, "We'll get there." And he further said that probably not only air capturable, but relevant targets for air possibly. And now I'm not a pilot. I don't fly. That's just not what I do within the game itself. But I know that there are a lot of pilots out there. This is kind of interesting because currently the Bastion Fleet Carriers are just something that kind of pops up when the meltdown alert finishes. Does that mean maybe we're going to see these things at the beginning of the alert? And is it going to be something that air can capture or they can fight over? Or I don't really know. I hadn't heard anyone from Daybreak Games say anything about these Bastion Fleet Carriers other than that they were just kind of placeholders and that's all that we were going to see. But this is kind of interesting that we might see something more out of these Bastion Fleet Carriers. I don't think that it's going to be Battlefield 2142 Titan-style gameplay or anything like that, just because it's not the same thing. But who knows? It could be a territory objective. You could get victory points from it. You could get regular points from it. You could get some sort of gameplay advantage from capturing it. Who knows what they could actually do with this thing. Kind of interesting that they're thinking about this and thinking about maybe making some changes with it. Again, just a quick topic I wanted to talk about because it was mentioned and kind of piqued my interest. But with that, let's move into our fourth topic this week. And that fourth topic is the Windows 10 Fall Creators Update. Apparently, well, everybody knows that has come out recently, and you can check wherever you want to try and find out how to download that and install that if you want to. Ultimately, everybody will get it, and we'll all have it installed if you're using Windows 10 already. But a lot of players recently are saying that their FPS is going through the roof after downloading this Fall Creators Update and then playing the game itself. It's all across the board because I've also got reports from other people saying that it made no increase whatsoever to their current settings or how they play the game itself. So kind of interesting that this is happening, and I don't think people really know why this particular thing is happening, other than that maybe people didn't have good optimized settings and the update fixed them. No one's really sure, or I can't find a good answer as to why people are getting these particular FPS increases. Now, one downfall to installing this, and I don't think people have figured out why this is, but things like recursion or the Overwolf overlays are not working for people when they update to this Fall Creators Update. So that's really the only reason that I have not updated my PC to it at this point, because I don't want my recursion to be broken. I use that the site on that constantly, the site overlay constantly, and that would cramp my game style. So until I hear that that's fixed, I'm going to stay away from making that particular update. But if you're not using recursion or any other overlays within the game itself, and you think you might get something out of the Fall Creators Update for Windows 10, go find out how to install that and add that to your PC. I'd be curious if it works for you. And with that, let's move on to housekeeping this week.
Housekeeping. Housekeeping.
Come back later, please.
Housekeeping.
Not now.
Housekeeping.
Go away.
I coming anyway?
Now, I did get a voicemail this week, and like I said, I will always play your voicemails if you give me a call at 347-4VM4PS2. So I did get a call this week from Insanity's Reign, so let's play that right now.
Rangers, Insanity's Reign again. Thank you for responding to my last voicemail. I haven't had the opportunity to take your advice because I've been studying in other things, unfortunately, in my Lysol and engineering classes, respectively, as well as getting a new gun for my medic. But, in any case, what I really wanted to ask you, and this is a series of questions, I hope you can get around to them in your shows. I know you want to keep them short. But this is a kind of something I've been thinking about, like trying to get more constructive feedback over to the developers themselves, instead of the things we see on Reddit all the time. Like what? So the first section is what is something that you genuinely like about Planetside 2? Like what keeps drawing you in? I understand that you are a longtime player, so I hope that that you can inspire us with what you like. The second thing is closer to like more improvements about the game itself. Alright, what's something within the game right now that you would like to see improved upon or whatever, fixed perhaps? Then another thing another question would be, like what's something from the past that you like to see brought back, right? taking a retrospective look at Planetside 2. And lastly, what exactly have you seen in other games that you wish Planetside 2 could implement? Doesn't have to be big things. It could be small things as well, or like nice little quirks. Let's see, and I guess one last thing is like what's something that could magnify your experience, or like something that could make you even happier with Planetside 2, right? Like taking your answer from the first question, what can make it better? Again, thank you for all the work that you do, and have a good night.
First off, Insanity's Reign, no need to apologize for the length of your voicemail. I can certainly squeeze it into this week's show. And you asked me 5 questions, and I did sit down and think about them, and here's my answers to you. So first off, you wanted to know what is something that you genuinely like about Planetside 2? What keeps drawing you in? So the long and short of that is it's the only game like it on the market currently. I am ruined from playing other FPS games like Battlefront or Call of Duty or Battlefield, and I was a huge Battlefield player. I mean, Battlefield 1942 was my jam back in the day. Oh, I had to pause because my daughter came downstairs to ask me to open a bottle of juice for her. So now I've completely lost my train of thought on this particular question. So I'm just going to move on to the next one. And so your second question was, what's something within the game right now that you'd like to see improved upon? Well, I would really like to see the leadership tools worked on within the game itself. I feel right now there's really no reason to lead a squad or platoon in Planetside 2 right now. At least in Planetside 1, we had rewards, like you'd earn experience specifically for leadership, and it would lead to unlocking cool things like the orbital strike. I wish they would work on better tools and give us stuff like that within the game, perhaps like we had in Planetside 1. Next, you asked, what's something from the past that you'd like to see brought back? Well, I thought about this one, and I'd really like to see Friday Night Ops brought back by the developers specifically. I mean, I know on Emerald we have the Friday Night Fights going on, and we have a continent priority and things like that, and I participate in those. But I'd really like to see Friday Night Ops brought back by the developers, and you could have the developers running with various outfits and talking with those people, but also answering questions on a live stream, things like that. I think they've done a real good job with the dev live streams lately, and I think Friday Night Ops coming back, even if it's once a month, first weekend of the month, the first Friday of the month, you do a Friday Night Ops, and you have someone from the community on. Like, you have Doku on, who's been going crazy with awesome weapons currently, and talk to him, or not to toot my own horn, have me on, or have Vindicor on, who has all these great ideas, something like that. I would love to see Friday Night Ops brought back specifically by the developers in Daybreak Games itself. I don't want to see a community-produced Friday Night Ops. Then you asked, what exactly have you seen in other games that you wish Planetside 2 would implement? And I've been kicking around this idea for a little while, and that's maybe implementing some of the Battle Royale aspects like you find in PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds or Fortnite, for example. And I'm wondering if, as an idea for the alerts, if you did that map shrinkage, in Battlegrounds and Fortnite, you've got the map the zone of combat, or whatever you want to call it. I don't know what the real name of it is. But that circle slowly shrinks as the game goes on to force players into fighting each other. So I think it would be kind of interesting if they were able to have some sort of alert where the map slowly shrinks as the alert goes on. Maybe you have the warp gates still there, and maybe a couple bases linked to the warp gate itself, but everything else just gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And if you're outside the zone, you could be taking damage. Perhaps even if you get killed while you're playing on this special alert, that you're kicked off the continent and you have to go play on a different continent. I don't know. Just some ideas that I've been kicking around and wondering if they're feasible in Planetside 2, which they might not be because of the amount of players that you have within the game at any given time. But I think that would be an interesting type of alert. And then finally, you asked, what's something that could make you even happier with Planetside 2? Well, the obvious answer there is having that pistol released in game that Wrel teased would be named after me. I'd probably giggle like a schoolgirl and grin for a few days if that really actually happened. But thanks for listening, Insanity's Reign. And like I said, anybody can send a voicemail in and I'll be happy to read it on the show. But that is going to be it for this week's show. So how can you get in touch with me or the show? Well, obviously visit my website, www.instantactionpodcast.com. Send me an email, instantactionshow@gmail.com. Call me, leave me a voicemail, just like Insanity's Reign did this week, 347-4VM-4PS2, or the digits are 347-486-4772. The show's Twitter account is @InstActPodcast, and my personal Twitter is @TheDerringer. So, in closing, if you've enjoyed the show, please leave me a review on your podcast listening avenue of choice, whether it's iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, or anywhere else. Also, feel free to tell your friends and outfit mates about the show. And finally, thanks for listening, and keep spamming that Join Combat, formerly known as Instant Action button.